So we are now recording. And hello, everyone, from my podcast. This episode is going to be a little bit different because it's going to be in English. And I have with me three friends. They were supposed to be four, but that one might still come that I met at Berklee. So we have Guilhem Fourty from Toulouse, France.
Yeah,
Pom, pom,
hi.
pom, 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 pom.
Pom, 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 pom.
We have Gabriel Maia from São Paulo, Brazil. And we have Sam Chandler from
Hey guys.
Duluth, Minnesota.
Hello, everyone.
We are missing one person, which is Isaiah Smith from Vancouver Island. Is that right?
Yeah.
From
Yes.
Canada.
Mm.
And he still might join, but we are going to start the recording anyway. So I was just explaining to the guys what the purpose of this episode was. So I'll just start with a question to you all. What was it like getting to Berklee for each one of you? Like, was the process difficult, easy? What did you have to go through? So I already explained my part in my podcast, so go ahead and jump in.
Okay, I can start. Yeah. For me, it was a very I don't know, it was a very I think intense process, and like full of doubts also, because the decision of going to another country by myself and like to study music can be very hard, right? Um,
Hmm.
I came from a school like a high school where all my friends were going to be like engineers or physicians, and I wanted to be a musician, and so I think the first thing that really was very important was to talk with some friends of mine about that, and like their support really was very helpful actually. When it comes to like the process itself to go into Berkeley, um, I found out that Berkeley would come to my city, which is São Paulo, and I could audition there, which made everything easier.
Hmm.
And I had some friends that I knew that already went to Berkeley, some musician friends, and they helped me a little bit to prepare for the interview and the audition. Do you want me to say more about the audition, things like that, João?
Whatever you want, yeah. I already explained a little bit what happened to me because the process was pretty similar, but I didn't know anyone at Berkeley. So like I was alone in the journey, but say what you want.
Yeah. So and then I auditioned in São Paulo, and as soon as like I found out that I was accepted, I was very happy. I needed to really like hurry to get everything done before I went to Boston on uh, the end of August. So the process, like the audition was in, I think, in the end of January or beginning of February for me, and found out that I was accepted in middle of March or beginning of April. They sent me an email, and so after that, I had to. Um, I think, like everybody, I had to uh, really put some effort into preparing everything. And the scariest thing is that sometimes you don't know exactly what you have to prepare, right? Because it's a lot of things. Like the one thing that I knew was that I had to get my visa and all the documents and things like that. So what I did was to ask Berkeley. They offer some emails for you to contact them. And I remember that like every week I would have a different question, and so that was something that really helped me. Like if you don't know something, you ask, and little by little you like begin to understand everything how it works. And yeah, so I think like one thing that was very important to me was to ask a lot, because one thing that I realized is that you don't know what you don't know, right? So to ask is better, I guess.
No, right.
And I think about the process to go into Berkeley, it was basically this. I was very excited to go to Berkeley, and I had a friend that was coming with me, but unfortunately he couldn't go. So there was a little bit like I was counting on that, and then like all of a sudden I was alone by myself in Boston. Uh, but it was like full of excitement, I guess. So that was like it's terrifying to go to another place, to another like another country, and meet like everybody is new and everybody seems to be so talented. But I think the excitement was what kept me sane and going through this process.
Yep. How about you, Game? I assume like your experience was the most similar to me and Gabriel because you are also an international student, and we'll go to Sam
Yeah,
shortly.
that's yeah. That's yeah. I can talk about, like, it was quite the same actually. So my okay, where can I start? I would say first that the idea of getting into Berkeley was not mine first. Like, I had someone that really helped me to get into, like, the idea of, you can really get a good scholarship at Berkeley, and you can do very good stuff there. So you should do the Berkeley contest, I would say, like, to get into that. And first, that idea was very new for me because I wasn't thinking at all about getting into that school, because for me it was too much expensive, and it was like the level was too high for me. But that man was a Berkeley alumni actually, and he said, man, you just have to, just try, and you'll see. um and I've, like, beside that, all my my family is not very, like, musician ish, I would say. They are not, like, professional at all, and my father doesn't play at all, like, music. And so that was quite hard for me to convince him. And I took many hours on the phone to trying to convince him, like, okay, maybe I should try. And so that was the first process. And then the other part that was quite hard, as you said, Gabriel, like, the process to have the visa, and like, uh, the audition, of course, but more like the visa, like the visa stuff. You have to go. In my case, I had to take the audition in Paris, and I had to go, after that, when I knew I was accepted, I had to prove that I have, and that amount of money to, like, for 1 year you have to do that, and then you can get the I-20, and then you can get the visa, and all that process is taking so long. And I wasn't sure until, I don't know, like, until the beginning of August, that I could go to Berkeley before, really going to Berkeley. So that was very, I don't know, that was very challenging, and that was very tricky for me to do all that process, because I've never done that before. Um, yeah, so basically that was quite the same as you, Gabriel, I guess.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
how about you, Sam? I assume like you are the most different from us because you didn't have to go through the visa process.
Yeah, it was a little bit, yeah, it's interesting because I haven't really heard either of your guys's perspectives before. So, not word for word,
Mm.
so it's really interesting to hear about your guys's experience. And yeah, so I guess, yeah, my experience differs in that I didn't necessarily have to apply for a visa or go through the various processes regarding studying in the United States as an international student, because I'm domestic. But I guess in order to understand the process that I had to go through, it was more of kind of like I wouldn't necessarily call it social, but like just some personal hoops that I had to jump through in addition to like the, application process as well. And to give that some context, we kind of have to go back to when I was a freshman in high school. And that's kind of when I knew that music was going to be my thing. School for me, it was just kind of like something that I did. I worked hard and tried to do my best in school, but nothing that I was studying, at public school was really grabbing me all that much, except for music. At that time, I had been in band, like a wind ensemble kind of setting, and I also play trumpet as well. And I was really loving that. And that's something that I don't bring up all that much because, because piano is my main thing, and it has been for many, many years. But I knew that in combination with playing piano and playing trumpet, I knew that music was going to be something that I really enjoyed and really wanted to make happen for my life, in one way or another. So that being said, I didn't necessarily have all that many peers who were motivated about music in the same way that I was, which was, I guess, the first challenge of trying to find this path to higher education in music. And I had to seek out opportunities to play with people that were at the same or higher level than I was. And a few of those opportunities were playing in the Minnesota All-State Jazz Band. So a thing that most states do is that they have like a high school level, like a statewide, it's not really a competition, but it's like you audition so that you're a part of a group that involves musicians from all around the state. And that was a great opportunity. I met so many great people regionally because really I had only known musicians in my high school's jazz band at that point, 9th, 10th grade or so. And that was really great to meet some new people and get in network and stuff. And another opportunity that I had was to attend a few regional camps in Wisconsin and Michigan. One of them being Interlochen. I'm wearing a sweater, right? My sweatshirt. No, the listeners can't see it, but I'm wearing an Interlochen sweatshirt. But yeah, so it was really great. I met so many.
They'll be able to see it.
Yeah. Oh, they will. Okay. All right. Okay. But I was able to meet some really fantastic musicians who were operating at a level much higher than myself, and it was a little bit scary, but I got to know them, and it was they're just people, and they're just trying to do the same thing, and they love it as much as I do, and it was so great to be around that energy. And one particularly challenging thing for me was keeping kind of this motivation of like, yeah, I'm excited about music, I want to keep going into my senior year of high school, which is when I applied to Berklee. And man, that first semester, like September to fall of like 2018 was like one of the most stressful periods of my life, minus the past, 15 months or so that we've all been experiencing shitstorm, And so the application process was pretty straightforward. I didn't necessarily have to jump through as many hoops as you guys, but I had to audition. Like Berklee wouldn't come to my city because my city's not big enough for Berklee to show up, unfortunately. And so I auditioned in Chicago. And what was interesting is because I'm also an athlete as well. So I do Nordic skiing as well. And
man, you are full of surprises.
Yeah. What will I say next? Who am I? Who is this guy that you know? But
are you Sam?
Yeah, who's this Sam Chandler character? But anyway, so we're that same week. So it's literally the Friday that the ski team leaves for a week-long trip out west to Montana, where we take like a week and we all get some really not intense, but it's like really long sets of like training and stuff like that just to get our season started. And the day that I had to be back to leave for a 22-hour bus ride out there, was the same day that I had to get back from my Berklee audition. So Thursday was my Berklee audition in Chicago, Illinois. And then Friday morning or afternoon, mid-afternoon was when I had to be back to go to this, long bus ride out west. So, what circumstance is going to bring these, my sorry, situation, it's completely different ends of the country. Like, how am I going to figure this out? But fortunately, my dad is an airline pilot and he's based out of Chicago. So he was actually coming back from a trip at the same time that I was flying out to my audition. So we're like, hey, why don't we meet up and like stay in hotels so that we can get this done? So, we cross paths miraculously, stay in the hotel. I do the audition, sleep overnight, wake up, get on another plane, fly home, get on a bus, and then I'm like in another state in a matter of hours. And it was totally hectic. And the one thing that kept me focused during the audition was like preparation, right? So I thoroughly researched all the different elements that I needed for not only the audition, but the interview as well, and made sure I had those down pat. And it actually went pretty smoothly. I knew that I wasn't, that the only way that I could, accurately represent myself was being prepared in that way. And I felt like it went smoothly. Like I wasn't sure how I did because I wasn't, listening to other people or anything like that. But I felt like it went okay. And I guess it went okay because a few months later in December, I got accepted. And that was crazy. That email was like one of the most surprising and exciting things I've ever received. And yeah.
Nice.
The process, like, go ahead,
sorry.
Gabriel.
No, one thing that I was going to say that I forgot to say when I was telling a little bit of my story, it was the process of like preparation to the audition, right? Because in São Paulo, there's like a group of people that like it's a music school actually, like that has a course to help you prepare for Berklee. And I did like 2 months of that like little course, and it was actually very nice because I could understand a little bit more the audition. But I like it, and it was nice to be with some, like not many, but some other people that were going to do it too. But like I don't think it's like you can do it. You can do like definitely by your own. It's nice to have some help, but it's not like totally necessary.
Yeah, like
That's
for
something
me,
that I would say.
that was basically the experience because, I mean, Berkeley is not that well of a known like college here, and I actually got to know Berkeley because of like my vibraphone teacher. I knew like he gave classes there, so that's how I knew Berkeley. And I was studying at the time. I already knew that music was going to be, or at least I was trying that music was going to be my future. But I was studying like classical music. But like in my, I would say like last year of high school, that's when I really got into jazz, and I felt like this is what I want to do. And so like I had some online classes with Ed Said and my current teacher, and some classes with my like classical percussion teacher at the time because he also had studied jazz vibraphone. And like the process for me was similar to Gabriel and Guilhem because I also had to go. I mean, Gabriel had like the audition in his city, but I had to go like to the Valencia campus, which is like the nearest. How do I say like? They were doing like the interviews in many places in Europe, but the nearest to my city was in Valencia, which is like an hour, 9 hour drive from my city. And it was a little bit difficult not knowing anyone who was applying for the school. Actually, Guilhem was the first person I met at Berkeley because he answered a post about like me asking if someone knew about the home. So he was the one who got me a home in Boston.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So at that point, like I didn't know anybody. Like I didn't know even how to play jazz. I mean, I had been studying for about not even a year, like 10 months or whatever. and I was so nervous for the audition, but I got so lucky because like I played There Will Never Be Another You, which is like a tune I had already been practicing a little bit, and I knew how to make like a good solo and whatever. I mean, a good, for the time it was good for me.
Mhm.
And like the sight reading was the luckiest thing ever because like the jazz tune was Anthropology, which I had like read 2 weeks before the audition, just out of fun, and so that was lucky as hell.
Thanks, look.
Took a deep breath. You're like, you see the chart. You're like, oh, thank
Thank
God.
God, yeah. And the second thing was actually uh, like a movement from Bach's second partita for violin, which I knew like from beginning to end because my girlfriend was playing that at the time, and so I knew it by heart. So that was like, oh my God, this is
Nice.
amazing. So
Nice.
yeah, and like
Nice.
in relation to the visa process, uh, similar to Guilhem, I only had like the certainty that I was going to Berklee probably like mid-August because
Mm.
like I remember that I think it was August 1st we had to pay like the first deposit to
Yeah, it was.
assure our
Yeah.
place at
Mhm.
Berklee, and at that time I didn't have any money to be at Berklee, so I just like it was, do I do it, don't I do it, like I made the deposit, and just after that probably like in the first week or second of August I got the bank loan. Then I had to get the I-20, and I got my visa 1 week before going to Boston.
Oh,
I mean, I
well,
got
Okay.
I got my
okay.
visa
I
in my
didn't know
hand.
that.
Like I got my
Well,
visa in my hand the day I went to Boston.
mm.
So yeah,
Damn, it's gonna close.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
close call, uh, but I think like it was worth it, and it ties well to my next question to you, which was like, what was your first impression of Boston? Because like I already told you that for me, Boston like is a huge city because I mean I live in a really small city, and when I mean small,
Mhm.
it's a small city. All of you live in cities that are way bigger than mine, so it was like an experience going to Boston, and I had kind of a bad start because so when you go through customs at the airport, like you have to declare everything and whatever what you're doing to in the US, and like the officer that was there was asking me, so where are you going to stay? Look, he started, what are you going to do? And oh, I came to study music at Berklee College of Music. And okay, so and where are you going to live? And I was like, at the IFH. And he was like, what the hell is that? And I was like, it's a house, wherever, it's like for international students.
Mhm.
And he was like, what's the address? I don't know. I have no
You're
idea.
like,
Yeah.
Oh.
And then
I
he
don't
asked
know.
me, what's the
Yeah.
address of like Berklee College of Music? And I was like, I have no idea.
Oh.
It's like, so you are coming to Boston and you didn't even know where you're going to
Oh,
stay?
fuck.
Like he was getting really mad. But my luck was that like some French guy appeared with a
You should have
passport.
written down like on a paper,
Yeah,
like,
man. I didn't even remember that.
386 Marlborough Street.
I didn't even remember that. So
Yeah.
like a French guy appeared with a passport, like with some pages ripped, and like they were all alerted by that, and I was like, go. So I was like, I managed to get into like the US, and that was a frightening experience. But like, what was it for you guys?
Like for me, João, it was so as you said, like I live in São Paulo, and São Paulo is like one of the biggest cities in the world, I guess. Like it's one of them. I don't know which one, but um, so I don't think that Boston was a small town, but it was not like definitely not surprising, like the size of it. Um, but I actually had a funny story also when coming to like in the airport, like entering the US in Boston, uh, because I came with my father. My father came with me like for the first couple weeks or 2 weeks, I guess, to help me, which was something that I am aware like not everybody has the chance of that because it can be expensive to like two flight tickets. But gladly, my dad could come with me, which was made everything, I guess, easier. um, and but like it was funny because before entering the plane, when we were in Brazil, we got some like snacks to eat in the plane, and that included like some fruits. And then we got stopped in the like U.S. airport because you cannot bring food like vegetables or any kind of food. So we were like kind of
I
like
think you can
arrested,
bring some food, but not all. Like,
but not vegetables, not fruits.
oh, not
Actually,
food. Yeah,
you
yeah,
can.
yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
We had bananas and apples. They let us keep the apples, but not the bananas. So that
Oh,
was like my
I
first.
actually had this issue because my mom came to, like to Montreal to then visit me in Boston, and when
Yeah.
she came, she brought some French cheese, like from my place from Toulouse, and at the airport, or like no, no, not at the airport, but like at the, like the guy said, you cannot bring that cheese or that cheese, and then she was like, what the heck, like, because
Yeah.
if you check on the web, like on the internet, there are some food that you can bring, like as fruits and some other stuff, but
Yeah.
for cheese you can bring some cheese, and some cheese you cannot bring them, and you're like, what's the law for that, like what's the
Yeah.
who wrote that, like
If it
that
smells
was
too
That's
bad,
the
you
really.
can't
thing.
bring it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, no
I think
Parmesan.
that was the main idea.
But but like apart from that, which was like something like very little, I came to Boston. I thought it was a beautiful city. Like I think Boston is very beautiful, and it was nice because like the first week in Berkeley is for the freshman students are is like uh, some activities of like people getting to know each other,
That's where I met you.
and yeah, that's where I think I met, maybe not Guilhem I met in our ensemble,
Yeah.
and
I
no,
met
and
you.
Sam I met in like I met I met because I knew your roommate, I
Was it?
guess.
Yeah,
From
yeah, that's right. You were in a practice room, and then you were practicing with my roommate.
yeah,
Yeah, I
and then you
remember that.
came to jam with us. Yeah, yeah, that was
Yeah, I
fun.
remember that. Yeah.
But so I've always been like a very like extroverted person, uh, and so this first week was very good for me because I was like starting conversations with some people and beginning to have like some friendships, which is something that really helped me. But I think one thing that was quite difficult was to speak English all day through and keep the conversations. Like right now, although I still make some mistakes, I can like speak English for the whole day. But that was very very hard for me in the beginning. I remember, even though I had studied English before Berkeley, I think the English was one of the hardest things ever for me. I remember like going to bed super tired when I the only
Mm.
thing I did the whole day was like talk
So,
with
yeah.
some
Mhm.
people.
Mm-mm.
So my
I'm
impressions of Boston were those like I think those activities were very nice for me to meet people, and I thought the city was very 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 charming. I liked it. Yeah,
I imagine
it
the
was
language
a
was also
small
really
town
hard.
like compared to São Paulo. Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine the language was also really hard for Sam. Like that
Oh
must
yeah,
be.
it was
Yeah.
really difficult.
Of course.
Adjusting my eyes so I could park and have it. That was really
Uh,
hard. Yeah, no, but it was definitely a big jump for me in terms of size of the city. You know, Duluth is, like a medium size, 86,000 people. That's fairly big. You can get
right.
around. But for me, what was most surprising or most abrupt of a change was just like the urban setting, right? So Duluth has
Mm.
a fair amount of outdoor spaces, and there's a lot of greenery, and you can drive, I don't know, maybe like 10 minutes, and it's all just like big, boreal forests, all these gigantic evergreen trees, right? And that's pretty much all northeastern Minnesota is, a great expanse of not true wilderness, but it's it's undeveloped land. And I guess that was the hardest adjustment in terms of like, okay, I'm living here now versus at home, was that like there's not as much green space versus what I was used to, which is a little bit alarming, but I was still able to enjoy and really appreciate like the Esplanade and like walking along the Charles. That was great. And just the Commonwealth and the Boston Common, those are really great spots too, to just hang out and just enjoy a little bit of greenery in the midst of what my dad fondly calls the urban hellscape, because he is also biased in terms of how much of a city he can appreciate, because he also grew up and also has lived here for however many years that obviously that I've been here, and he really enjoys the outdoors much like I do, and that was, I guess, a tough part of learning to live in Boston. But that was made up, or I guess stating it for the first time, it was made up because I was meeting people and I was doing something that I loved. So yeah, I could ignore the loud, the loud intersections in the traffic and just the bustling, just buzz that, Boston has, because I knew people, and that was a thing that I guess helped adjust me from like sort of a smaller city to a larger city. But again, like Gabe said, it's a really great city. And then now I follow like a Boston pictures thing on Instagram, and like I'm seeing all the different landmarks. I'm like, hey, then that's
for everybody. That's for everybody.
And we're all like, oh man, I miss it so much. And like, oh, there's the Prudential, and like there's the Charles, and you see all these things. Yeah.
But one thing I was thinking, Sam, is like I think in the beginning when you like don't know like anybody there, it's kind of like I've always been like someone that really likes to talk with people and meet new people. But even for me, I think it was like I would get like a little bit scared of like talking to everybody. But one thing that really helped was to remember that everybody's in the same spot. Like nobody knows anybody, and like everybody's like new there. And as soon as you like begin talking to people, of course there's some people that are gonna like have more similarities and like build a faster like friendship. But you like in general, I think I noticed that everybody was like willing to meet new people. In a very nice way, I guess.
Yeah,
that was very helpful. This kind of thought of like everybody's in the same boat,
Yeah, I just want to jump on what you said, Gabe. Like my issue was the same as yours, like meet people, but my issue was that I'm not I'm not extroverted. I'm more like I don't go to people like too easily, and for that was the first point. And then also my English at that time was not that good, even if I have like I studied English in my previous schools, and I have some people in my family, they speak English all the time. They live in South Africa and place like that, so when we talk it's in English, of course. But even with that, I wasn't very comfortable with meeting people and talking English all day long. And actually now, since I left Boston like a few months ago, I'm losing my English again. So that's kind
Me
of
too.
man. We need to call more, like like once a week, and then I can talk again. But yeah, that was an issue for me. And one thing that helped me a lot was actually the music itself, like going to jam session and playing with people, and then you can meet and then you can talk with people and then stuff like that. I think, Sam, I met you in a jam session, if am I right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there were a few occasions where I remember.
Yeah, we met in a jam session, and thanks to that, I met like amazing people. And even if my English was not that good, and even if I'm I'm not the person that goes, like
Mhm.
like hanging with people and stuff like that. Those.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah, to sort of, I guess, jump on that. Yeah, I remember, that those first few weeks
Yeah.
were kind of like pivotal in like, okay, I'm trying to meet people. Let's, at least from my perspective, is like, who do I talk to? Who do I meet? Who do I hang out with? And I remember there were a few occasions where I think there was one time when your ensemble was playing like jam. You guys were playing, I think, All the Things You Are, and you didn't have a piano player.
Yeah.
And I sort of like jumped in. I'm like, hey guys, you mind if I jump in?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was that other occasion when we were kind of hanging out with, or not with, but in the 160 kind of ensemble room area. And then we kind of jumped in to that one jam session. I think it was like
With Chandler.
Yeah. And I was like totally blown.
Yeah, I remember that. Oops.
And I remember being.
We were together, right?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. It was you and
yeah.
Guilhem. Yeah, okay. It was you and Guilhem were there, and
Mm-mm.
we were just kind of like, it was kind of like that period where like classes weren't really, moving quite yet. So we're all just kind of like, okay, let's just walk around and just like see if we can meet people and hang out or whatever.
Yes.
And so we went into that jam session. I remember being like totally terrified because I was like, oh my God, these people are so good. What? Oh, I don't even want to do anything.
You can imagine how I felt never having studied jazz, like going for my first jam session. I was like,
yeah, oh my god,
how the hell is this going to go?
Yeah, and I guess that was another thing, not to deviate too much from the original question, but like, I guess like my background musically, in terms of jazz over the past few years before Berklee was almost exclusively playing in big bands. So like, the voicings have to be pretty specific because then it has to match up with what the horns are doing. And sometimes you have whole sections where you're laying out, and it's a very articulate and a very like precise method of playing, whereas a jam session is like it's kind of like a blanket kind of statement kind of thing where you know the form and the changes, and then there's a lot of freedom and flexibility. So that was kind of like a new thing for me coming to Berklee, was like kind of having that setting, and like it's mostly small groups. There's not really larger groups except for the more official groups that play. So that was something new, I guess, for me.
Yeah,
sure.
Jumping
Yeah.
in. Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead.
You say it, John.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the first weeks for me were also like crucial, because as Guilhem, I'm not like an extrovert. Like, I don't go out to meet people. Sometimes I just hope they talk to me because I don't have the courage to talk to different people. So it was actually good that, for example, I remember being in the line for the registration where we had like to go get our cards or whatever, and that's where I met Gabriel. And I was like, yeah, man, that's good that I can speak Portuguese to someone or whatever.
Finalmente.
The ball.
Yeah. And like, for example, with Sam, we were having like, it was the lecture, or no, it was like
oh yeah,
English
it's
class.
Marion's class.
Yeah, exactly.
Intro to college writing. Yeah,
exactly. We're having like an English class, and like out of nowhere, like we started talking. I mean, I think we were together or in the seat or whatever. So like, it's good when people started talking to me, because otherwise, I mean, like the first 2 weeks were the most crucial for me, because I felt really lonely, because that's when my parents, they also went with me to Boston, with like, they stayed a week with me. And when I moved to IFH, like they left Boston, and it, like, I assumed it was the same for you guys, but it was my first time living away from my parents, and especially like 5,000 kilometers away, or like across an ocean. I was like, man, there's no escape from this. Like, I have to stay here. So it was indeed like really nice to meet new people.
Yeah. And also one thing is that me and Joel, like we were living off campus, so because of that, like the first semester we didn't like really meet, like we we were not like in a group of people, like
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
I don't remember if Sam you were on campus. I don't.
Yeah, I was on
Where?
campus,
Okay,
but
okay, okay.
Sam was all
I
over the place.
yeah, man. The first, I don't know, it was a blur. But yeah, I guess, yeah, I was on campus, but also being an
Yeah.
introvert, or kind of like that weird blend of like I like talking to people that I'm comfortable with, but then like with strangers, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, that I remember that literature class with you, Joao, and how I think it was like one conversation where we were talking about like kind of like, is music like essential or for life, or like for a good quality life or something like that. I think that was like the prompt or something that we were talking about, which is really interesting because now it's all the more relevant right now. Um, but I remember you had a really great response and you said like, yes, music is like this really important part of my life, but I also want other aspects that can be gained out of life and appreciated in life, like having a family or like building a financially secure future. Not saying that you can't do that in music,
Yep.
but like that was a priority in parallel to pursuing, the most creative way you can be in music. And I really connected with that because that was kind of my concern, you know jumping headfirst into this whole music thing, was that, how much of a career can I make out of this? And that was, always a question that I was keeping in mind. And I think that was the instance where I think it must have been like on a street corner or something, where we kind of connected and we were kind of having that short conversation that kind of sort of started the friendship, I guess.
Yeah, I remember we talking like going from 8 fanbase to like 150 myself, like to
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And I
good
remember,
moments.
yeah, the band, that was so, it seems like it was forever ago, but yet it also seems like it was yesterday. It's so weird.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like,
Something that is it's kind of interesting is like in those first 2 weeks, like I guess I've noticed I'm like different than you guys. I like I have like kind of it's not that hard for me to talk to strangers. I know it's something that's about my personality, and something that I like everybody comes to Berkeley. Not everybody, but like as soon as you go to Berkeley, people tell you like, oh, it's a great place to like build networking and like you gotta meet people. So I've never liked to like build friendships out of interests or in like professional life, right? And then I watched a video of a girl that there's on YouTube saying like, yeah, it's very important to build like network, but if you just um, be yourself and make like true friends, that will happen like naturally. So I had that in my mind, which was it was great, and but like in the beginning, I had like I wanted to know like how people played, what did people play, because I'm a guitar player. I think I've mentioned before, and I had already studied in a conservatory in Brazil, so I knew a little bit of like how uh, like big school of music worked, but it was different. So I think that in those first 2 weeks, uh, the sentence that I spoke like the most was, "Hey, we can play sometime," or like, "Let's jam sometime." And
Mm,
sometimes it didn't happen. Like people would just forget and not go to the jam session, or uh, like just leave it like that. But sometimes it would like lead to some very good experience. For example, I think that's how I met Sam. I met his roommate, and sometimes things are not that like straight and they don't happen exactly how you think they will happen.
mm-hmm.
But he had a roommate. He was a guitar player, and we like I said like, hey, let's jam sometime. And then I like we were jamming in like a small practice room, and then I think Sam showed up, or we asked Sam to come with us. And in the end, like of the night, I remember like it was just like me and Sam. I don't remember what happened, but I just remember that after like that night we were like, hey, we have to play more, and like the
Mm-hmm.
starting of a friendship, for example. So so that actually that advice of that girl that I saw on YouTube was like, don't like, you don't have to make friends and build networking, just like go and act naturally and things will begin to work. Like that was very very important, I guess.
But like,
And,
do you think
yeah.
you and Sam had an advantage on that because you were living on campus? Because like as Guilhem said, sometimes I felt that, I mean, till now, most of the relations I have with Boston come from the IFH and the guys living at the IFH, because
Yeah.
I was not like in the Berkeley circle. Like I was not.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to
Yeah,
say.
yeah, sure, sure.
Because we are off campus, we
Mhm.
we cannot make
Yeah.
like
I think it
friendship.
definitely
Yes.
it definitely helps to be on campus. Like I was living on campus on a very, I was very lucky, I guess. Like I was living in the 160 building, which like, it's a very good building to be living in. There's a great view, and gladly, like the floor I was in, I had like a lot of like very nice people. Like I made some very good friends. My roommate was very nice. I not necessarily I would play with them. Like sometimes they like other types of music, or it wasn't just like it didn't work very well. But in the end, actually, like I began playing a lot with them too. But in the not in the beginning. But I guess I was talking to Sam like I guess like 2 or 3 days ago. We talked, and I told you that like I had in the beginning had two friends that were kind of separate, like the people that I liked to play with, which were like you guys that I met in like jam sessions or ensemble like EM, right? We were in the same ensemble, and the people from my floor, which was also very comforting. So I think yeah, it definitely helped me to like it's a very easy way to meet people and get close to people soon, rapidly. But I think I had some luck because my roommate was I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot, but my roommate was very nice, and we get along very well. We got along very well. But I know some stories, I think maybe like Sam, that didn't go like as smoothly as it went for me. So yeah, I think that's a little bit of how it went.
So like,
Yeah. It's funny that you bring up, my perspective,
Yeah.
because it's almost in complete contrast to, how I experience things. Well, I guess, so it really depends, on the person. Somebody who is like, yeah, I need to be sort of in the same place as other people, would, in order to meet them, would really, appreciate the on-campus experience. And I in retrospect, I did appreciate being on campus, because if I had been, living off campus, either with some roommates, either attending Berklee or not, or, worse, by myself, then I might not have made the connections that I did and met the people that I did. And that was the positive side of living on campus and just being closer to everything, because you have the 160 building and the 150 building that are kind of like the main buildings of campus. I mean, that's where the food is, in 160, so for most of the food. But I guess the negative side is that sometimes you don't necessarily get matched up, or you don't. It's like, at least for me, like, of course you can choose your roommates, but otherwise, other than that, you get randomly matched up with people if you have no preference. And I went into it thinking that, okay, if I can match up with people that I know are going into it, then that'll work out perfectly, because then I'll know somebody on campus, because I too was coming to Boston knowing zero people at all. And I thought, living with somebody that I met before would be a good idea, and another person that was new, I'd never met before, then that would be good. But, and it was good. Like, we had some good times, and like we laughed about stuff, and, we were friends. but like it just got to the point where our sleep schedules just did not line up at all, and there was kind of like some, maybe a little bit of resentment, and because we're all, like we're all going through the kind of like the same thing where it's a new experience. There's a lot of pressure because we're all taking like 8, classes, 16 credit hours, at most. And it's like a lot of other external factors that lead into people maybe not being on their best behavior, myself included, which might lead to tension, but that's just like, interpersonal. That's just like a fact of living with other people, let alone living on campus, is that, that sometimes you get on each other's nerves and you have to learn how to resolve conflict.
Yeah,
when you live with a roommate, you always like you take the risk of not matching perfectly with that person. I mean, like my roommate, I liked him, but like he was not
I know this story.
yeah, like
he,
he was a cool guy, but like I had the luck that he was almost always working, so I had the room almost always for myself. And like when the second semester started, he was not on the room, so I mean, I got the privacy that I wanted. But I guess, like for example, for you, Sam, like having like the roommates that you not necessarily matched perfectly with, like it made negative impact on your experience. But tying this like Berklee experience to my next question is like, when you went to Berklee, was it like everything you thought it would be, or did you get disappointed with something, or were there some things that were better than you thought they would be? Is there something that like surprised you, how good it was, or on the opposite side, how bad it was?
I think for me, I just remembered one thing about the last question about like asking like about living in the dorms, right? There was maybe because I was in the dorms, I didn't feel as like that loneliness, and although like I was taking my time um, to meet people, and I did feel lonely sometimes and things like that. I think it was actually like easier to take like to take this process a little bit more naturally, because whenever I came like home, which was dorms, right, I had like a roommate, and like the my like neighbors were nice, so I think that helped. And also like the caf, which is the cafeteria, right, where people like have lunch. You also meet a lot of people there, and usually only people that are in the dorms eat there, like in general. So also like, yeah, it definitely adds some shortcuts to meet people, right? But about the expectations, I think that Berkeley has always been like a very like big name, right? Like Berkeley College of Music, where like if you search someone like Kurt Hasewinkel, for example, like he studied there. Like there are a lot of people that studied there, and so like you begin thinking that it can be like a paradise of like music, but at the same time, it is like something kind of frightening. One thing that I did before going to Berkeley was really to uh, like see like videos in the internet of people saying about their experience, right? And some of those videos, the great majority of them, like were a little bit lowering my expectations, saying like it's very nice, but it's not because you went to Berkeley that everything, like all your problems will be gone, right? So I think I went to Berkeley expecting like, okay, it's gonna be a very nice school, but it's gonna be like that's it, like um, just like any other school. And in like in some way it is just like any other school, right? But one thing that surprised me was that some people that I like talked to, or that I said uh, like watched an internet video, they said that Berkeley was like sometimes it could be like very competitive and things like that. And although I actually felt some like of like that feeling of competition, which it's very not good, like really not good for me. Like that's one thing that really is not good for me, and like in the music world. I found out some people that were like very good to talk to about this, and actually it was a much less competitive environment than I thought it would be. Uh, I don't know if it was because I met the right people like you guys, or or because or it's like in general it's like that. But something that surprised me was that one thing that was negative is like I think Sam said told some things about his musical background, like he was used to play in big bands, right?
Mhm.
Um, and for me, it's a little bit different because I was like I always liked jazz, but I was more used to playing Brazilian music and Brazilian jazz, and the accent is a little bit different, and the way you behave in music is a little bit different. So I remember actually like Guilhem and I we were in the same ensemble, and also like the teachers like here in Brazil, at least the teachers I had were like very kind always and very supportive. And I remember like this first ensemble we had like a teacher that was like he would like sometimes he would yell at us, really, wouldn't he? Yeah. And he spoke like very difficult English, and like very hard for me to understand
Mhm.
with his accent. So sometimes I didn't know what I was doing wrong, because it was different, like the because one thing is to play like American the American jazz in Brazil, and the other thing is to play with an American person. The accent is different, the way they play is a little bit different. um, so I think I had like a little bit of problem with that, with the teach with with this teacher and some others like being tougher than I expected. And I remember I've like it had a huge impact on me. But I talked a lot to Guilhem about that. We were like always talking about this, and to other people, and that really helped. So yeah, it was.
We
I
said
think
no
that's.
names, right?
Sorry,
We said no names, right?
we didn't say any names now. I
Okay.
did I?
Just wanna make sure.
No, don't worry.
Okay.
I don't think I said it, but
No, 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 you
in
did.
the so but like just to conclude, to sum up, like I had this so this teacher, and I always had the posture of like talking to people whenever something doesn't feel right. And so uh like he would like say something for me, and I would try to talk to him, but like that was just not the time and not the way people behaved. And I would apologize a lot because that's something that we do here, and that wouldn't be good. So a little bit of that was kind of tricky for me, and very anguish. Sam, I forgot the word again.
Yeah,
um
yeah, we were talking about, we were
I
trying to
felt a
find a
lot of
word. Like, I couldn't find it either.
I felt like very anxious and nervous about that. And one thing that I did to help was I tried to talk to this teacher in like a place outside the
Mm.
class, like the ensemble. Uh, and actually, that helped a lot because then we were like a little bit more calm. And I went to his office hours, and then he said like, I think you're a very good player, but I just try to like encourage you to be better. And like the way he was doing it was
Mm.
I was not used to. Like it was I think more American than I knew before, I
Like
guess.
relating to the competitiveness, like I felt the exact opposite of you because one thing that made me leave, uh, I would say like leave the classical music world was actually its competitiveness because like often for an orchestra you have like 200 people competing for one place, and it's like you have all these kinds of competitions to see like who's the better player, and that's not something I really like. I'm not against contests, but for me that's not the way that music should be viewed, like
Mm.
as a
Mm-hmm.
contest. So I went into Berklee trying to find a way to get away from that, and I mean, I didn't find any competitiveness. All I mean, it might be also because of my instrument, because we were very few like vibraphone players.
I think that's the only reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, because guitar players or
That's
piano or
definitely
drums,
the only
man.
reason, man.
Yeah, because like all the vibes
Yeah.
players I met, like they were really nice. Some of like the best friends I made there, and like we would like help each other. I never felt like someone was trying to overcome me, or like I was trying to overcome them and be like better in this technique or whatever. And that never happened for me, so it was a really positive experience for me
Mm.
in that
Yeah,
regard.
but I agree, man. I like for me it was much less competitive than I thought it would be. Much less.
I think it, yeah, I mean, as I said before, it depends also of the instruments. Like for drummers, depending on the style, also there's definitely competition, and yeah, it, I cannot say that it's the same as in my place, like in my conservatory, uh, but like since it's a bigger city and since like the Berklee is well known, and since many factors like that, for me, I definitely saw competition in, like, when you go to a jam session, it's always like, oh, this guy, these cats they can play, and it's always like that. And I expected that because I knew it was like that because of my previous background. Like, I mean, in France, there are many competition. Like in Paris, the most well-known place for jazz. But in my place in Toulouse, we have many places like that where there are many competition. But I felt in Berklee there are quite a lot of competition. Actually, for drummers, I don't know for other
Yeah.
like
For
instruments.
vibraphone players,
I'm
chill.
sure for vibraphone there's not that, but like, yeah, I don't know.
What about you, Sam?
What about for
Um,
piano? Like,
yeah, well, I remember there was, it must have been like one of the first like large like class meetings, I guess, where they were kind of listing off the numbers in terms of like how many instruments or how many people were in certain instruments. And I think it was either guitar or piano that were the most. And it was like, so in that sense, there's like a lot of people trying to do the same thing. And that lends itself to a certain amount of competition. But
where's Gabe?
oh, did he?
He
Where'd
just
he go?
left. I don't know.
Oh no, maybe his
Okay.
connection fell out.
Yeah, probably.
But like I was saying, so in that sense, like there's just kind of like maybe it's not ever said out loud, or because every single piano player that I've met has been like really nice. They're all like have their own kind of deal that they're doing. Like they play classical music, or they do more pop styles, or they're doing jazz things. And it's like they're all doing their own thing, and it's like that's why there's so many different faculty in the piano departments, because it's so diverse and so many people do so many different things that it's really cool to see how so many people can play the same instrument but like have so many different musical outcomes in terms of how they play it and what kind of style they lean towards.
Like, do you think that like the teachers or the teachers that you had or that you know about like in piano faculty made a difference in that? Because like for me, I couldn't have asked for better like vibraphone teachers, and like they are really chill in the sense that like they don't incentivize like competition. I mean, obviously they incentivize you to be the best that you can be, but like not to be competing with each other or like to be better than anyone else. I mean,
Yeah, no, I the teachers I've had so far have not like been like, oh yeah, you have to go out and be better than so and so or whatever. That's like never been something they've either said explicitly or implied in any kind of way, which is great, because there's not really any need to encourage that. I mean, everybody's got their own thing going on, and everybody's at a different level and has their own rate of progress too. So it doesn't make sense to me why why it would be encouraged on like an administrative level.
But
That being said, like I, because I had kind of like this idealized version of Berklee, right? It's like the super big name school. Like there's all these people. I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone's going to be so much better than me. I have to go out and get it because coming from being a student athlete, I'm naturally kind of have that yeah, I kind of want to edge the competition out and like be there and be on top and stuff like that. That's kind of been an aspect of that I'm trying to tone down a little bit now because I'm realizing that it's not helpful anymore given my current circumstances. But I've noticed that I kind of had like almost like an internal drive, even like subconsciously, to kind of like, I kind of want to be the best, and I'm sure like just like everybody has those feelings in one capacity or another, but I felt like it was kind of just, it was ruining my experience a little bit. And it was in part because I felt like I wasn't at the level that everyone else was. Like you have people who are already like have music degrees that are undergraduates at Berklee, or people who have gone to conservatory like you guys have. Like I'm just graduating from like a high school in like middle America, big whoop, right? And my high school's jazz band, we've done a few competitions, but it's only like regional stuff. And I wasn't a part of like the Grammy band or the Next Generation, like Monterey Jazz Fest big band, or like there's NYO Jazz, which is another like nationwide program. And I've had peers that I've met who have done all those things, or I know of people who have done those things and are like as far as their careers go, and like in terms of having connections, like of course everybody musically has a lifetime to go in terms of what they learn and how they grow, but in terms of that, I feel like I didn't necessarily have that edge. So like coming to Berklee, like whoa, Berklee, right? I felt like I kind of had to give myself a nitro boost, and that lent itself well in maybe confidence areas, but maybe not so much in terms of like thoroughly learning stuff for myself. I mean, that's just where I'm coming from, I guess.
Yeah.
Go ahead, again.
No, I was just gonna say that you were talking about the fact that like competition can be implied in some way, and I was just gonna say, like, when you go to a jam session, they always, like, people, they always ask you your age, and this is one of the, like, the main how would you say, like, when they ask you your age, it's not just to, like, we kind of don't care about your age. It's just to see where your level is at compared to your age. Do you see what I mean? Like,
yeah.
and depending of the instrument, of course. And I don't know, like, when I was at Berklee, every time I went to a jam session, it was that way, and I was like, I mean, who cares about the age? I mean, just play what you want to play and what you want to express, and
yeah.
and
Like,
I don't know.
I get what you say. Like, I guess I felt some of that competition in that sense, but I mean, I don't really call that competition, because when I went to a jam session, I was not trying to be better than anyone else, nor was I feeling that someone was trying to be better than me. But I think that might also be because, as I told you, like, because of the instrument, but also, I mean, I went to Berklee knowing that I would be some kind of underdog, because like I didn't have like uh, as many jazz experience as like many people had. Like the first time I went to 150 to study vibraphone, there was like a saxophone player like just blasting bebop solo, and I was like, oh, so this is what I'm up against. And like that moment, like I fell into reality, and I knew like probably in any jam session that I'm going to be, I would not be like the best one. That's probably what's going to happen. So I was not actively worrying that I was not going to be the best one, because I already knew that. So I mean, I know what you say, like when people ask, hey, what's your age? For how much time have you been playing, and whatever. What they are trying to do is see if you're like good for your age and for your level and your knowledge. and compare that to themselves. But I think because I was not actively looking for that or worrying for that, like my experiences were a little bit softer, if that's even a word or a term to use
Yeah,
in
Mm.
this case.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah.
that
Mhm.
makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I
So
remember we've gone to like I think, um, I think I've been to jam sessions with both of you, but like on separate occasions.
yep.
Um, and and then I think one time we did something together at Berklee.
Yeah,
Um,
where there was Isaiah, Nick, and Gabriel.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
there's a
yeah,
whole bunch of people.
definitely.
Yeah. And those are cool because that was kind of like the point where we kind of like already knew each other. And it wasn't really like we're playing with strangers. It's like, oh yeah, we're just friends, kind of like having a good time. And
Mm-mm.
that definitely kind of like in that setting, there's like oh yeah, I'm not trying. There's no way I'm trying to like one up anybody or anything like that because we're all there's that level of trust that comes with being friends that like we're not trying to be unless it's kind of like cheeky or like we're trying to be funny or whatever you're trying to like kid with each other, then there's not any kind of sense of like, oh, I'm trying to be better than anybody, anything like that. um, but one thing I wanted to mention that goes back to the question, like expectations of Berklee. um, I guess so. The one thing that I thought was like better than I expected was just, or it was what I expected, or even better, was like how like passionate everybody was about doing music, and that was super exciting to be around. Coming from high school, yeah, you had a few people here and there that were excited about it, but like here, like everybody's like, yeah, music, and like, yes, and that was
Definitely.
like and that was the thing that kind of got like solved, right? When we look for, as Gabe has mentioned before, where we kind of look to new experiences to solve our problems. That was the one thing that was like, solved or whatever you might want to call it. Um, and One thing that I didn't expect or didn't really see coming was like how intense the course load was going to be. Like that was like whoa, maybe that was just because I was coming off of being a high school senior or whatever, and I was just kind of like dicking around until I graduated. But but like it's like what, 8 classes, uh and like that some would only meet like once or twice a week. But
Mm-mm.
I think that made it more difficult because you had to really be on top of the material each
Yeah.
week. Otherwise, like you only have one, class a week. And one thing I guess I was disappointed in was like the frequency that ensembles met. Like for me, 2 hours a week, once, was not enough in terms of
Mm.
like, and I felt like in that way, it uh, there was the commute. I had to seek community like within music in a different way, i.e., jam sessions or you're just hanging out with people. Um, because in high school, like our jazz band would meet every single day,
Mm.
and it was like 50 minutes, uh, like in the morning, every single day, like 5 days a week, and that was the whole school year, and that was like that's awesome. What a perfect way to start the day. You know, we rehearse, we play, we play stuff, and work on stuff, and I guess that was something I was like a little bit disappointed with. I guess it was I was fine, but like I was kind
I
of like, oh man, I
just want
wish.
to jump on that because like you are doing degree, right? Not diploma.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to add like, if you pick diploma, you have less classes to choose. Like you have between 11 and 13 credits, I think. Yeah, it's that.
Mm-hmm.
And so my point is that you should be less, like busy with your classes, but like the time that you have free, usually we spend that to to practice and to play with people like in jam sessions and stuff like that. And also depending on the major you choose, because you were talking about the 2 hours per week that you have, but like in my case I'm doing diploma and also performance.
Mm.
And like there was this semester, like my second semester, I took two ensembles, so I had basically 4 hours of ensembles per week. And besides from that, I had also like I was working at Berklee as a sideman, so I had like ensembles, extra ensembles, I would say. And with all of that, I had like finally I had like, I don't know, 6 or 7 ensembles per week, which
Whoa.
was like,
Dang.
yeah, that was
Wow,
quite
busy man.
that was
I
quite
did.
a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
geez.
So I was doing that plus like all the projects that you have like besides classes and stuff like that, and also the jam session. So if you add all of that, you end like with I don't know how many hours of practice and playing with people, but it was quite different in that way, in my view. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, I
Yeah,
felt the same.
it's interesting, yeah, to see how everybody's experience is like is
Mm.
totally different.
Yeah, I felt the same
Yeah.
way, but different than Sam because I was also a little bit disappointed. Was not actually with ensembles because, like, when I was studying here in Portugal, like sometimes like I had like 4 hours of orchestra a week, and like we had like a big band, which is actually my first introduction to jazz. I was playing piano there, and we had like that for 2 hours a week. So I was used to ensembles being 1 to 2 hours a week, but I always had like private instruction for at least 2 hours a week. So when I had like 30-minute classes from like the third semester or like here in fall, I was like, is this going to be enough? Am I like, I'm paying so much money to only have 30-minute classes? But I've come to find out that at least for me is actually enough. Like I feel that I get so much information out of my teachers in like half an hour that for me it's good because it gives me time to practice everything for my next class, and I don't need, because I mean a private instruction is not a place where you study for the class. I mean you are supposed to be already studied for that class. So I get so much information that actually I felt that it was enough. I mean, obviously it would be good if it was more time, but I actually felt it was enough. So that was a bittersweet disappointment because I was like a bit, is this going to be enough? But at the end, I actually felt
Yeah.
it was good.
Yeah, and if you work on less material but like work on it more thoroughly, then it benefits you more than if you kind of just touch a bunch of different subjects but don't really get deep into any of them.
Yeah,
In
for
that kind
sure.
of way.
And this actually ties to my last question for you because we are already with 1 hour and 16 minutes of recording, which is regarding to the classes itself. I mean, this will be a little bit different from for Guilhem and for you, Sam, because we are doing degree and Guilhem is doing a diploma.
Yeah.
So, did you feel that like the amount of work or the classes themselves were worth the money? Let's say, for example, we had like the intro to college writing and literature and whatever other kinds of classes are worth the money, or do you think that some classes are just there to make credits and don't serve any purpose?
Well, that's an interesting question. I feel like because like you can have certain, like at least in my experience, I had certain opinions of classes that I've taken, and how useful they are, going into it, and then after having gone through it, I have a different perspective about how useful it was and how useful they are. Um, and then different even from that is how I felt about it while taking the class, like in the middle or throughout the semester. Um, like some of the liberal arts, I feel like can be like everyone is like, oh yeah, liberal arts, whatever, right? And I too also have that opinion somewhat. But I do think in retrospect, I'm glad that I've taken all the liberal arts that I've taken, and I look forward to taking the liberal arts that I will take in the future because um, it can be very easy to kind of just slip into like only having tunnel vision, like music tunnel vision, like you're only like, and that's, in my opinion, it reduces your worldview, and I think as musicians, we also have to think about being global citizens and be knowledgeable about, current issues like climate change or racist policy that still exists, and other important subjects like that. So in that sense, like I do think that the liberal arts are definitely, people shit on it all the time, but it's definitely worth it, and I think it's worth the money. And the same, of course, goes for the I think a lot of the core classes too, like because everyone comes in with the different levels of experience, and speaking from my personal experience, I felt like I could have been placed a little bit higher than I was, not like starting in a major right away kind of high, but like I felt like starting out it was a little bit slow, and I was kind of frustrated with the pace things were going. But in retrospect, I realized, oh yeah, I needed to kind of review some stuff and kind of clarify things and like learn the Berklee system of like how to label a chord scale, or just to understand the theoretical stuff that Berklee sets up for everybody. So in that sense, I definitely think it's worth it if you're attending Berklee. If I had any advice, like for people who are listening who are like, okay, maybe I'm thinking about applying to Berklee or whatever, if you can find a program that offers something similar to Berklee, but is like much less or not as much as Berklee in terms of cost, I would definitely consider pursuing that as well as either a replacement or an option in addition to Berklee. I say that because my teacher, who is I still consider him a teacher today, but I took private lessons with him, private jazz lessons with him, pretty much all throughout high school. And he said that, in the process of me looking for schools, he said that, undergraduates do undergraduate things, right? Everybody kind of learns the same thing, more or less. It's just like the experience, what kind of experience are you looking for? And for Berklee, you're paying for the experience. And, right, so you're coming for the atmosphere, you're coming for the resources, you're coming for being in Boston, you're coming for opportunities to network and the alumni connections that you can get, which I think, in my opinion, that's the most valuable part of Berklee, is how involved and connected they are to the industry, in whatever capacity you might find interesting or compelling. That's, in my opinion, where the money is. That's why you're paying to go to Berklee, so that you can have a degree or a diploma on it that says, Berklee. It's about kind of the credentials. You're paying for the credentials. Because you can like, if you're a motivated individual, you can go anywhere or most anywhere and have a great educational experience. And you have, if you look at players historically who have not, attended a single class of music school, or dropped out of music school, or can't even read music, and who are so well known, right? And are well regarded musicians in themselves. So in that sense, I feel like Berklee is like, you're paying for the experience of it, rather than like, and you are investing in your education, but like, I feel like in that way, like you're paying, I think maybe you're paying a little bit more than you need to in terms of like the content, but in terms of experience, you're definitely paying full price for the experience, and it's definitely worth it.
Yep. Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I had the same thing going to liberal arts classes, especially, for example, the intro to college writing like class. Back in Portugal, like my worst subject was language, so I was like, man, I'm gonna have to go through language classes again. But it turned out to be one of the classes that I liked the most. I think like the teacher also made that really good. And like throughout like the last 3 semesters, classes like genetics in the movies, or mythology, or psychology, classes that I never thought I would like so much, and to this day are some of the best classes I have ever had. So in that sense, I really feel like it's worth the money. And what about you, Guilhem? Since you are in a different situation with the diploma.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have all that liberal arts classes, so it's quite different for me. Even if I'm actually thinking of switching to degree, this is one of the reasons, because I want to open my knowledges to many different subjects, and like you were talking about psychology and stuff like that. So I think I will really appreciate these classes. But everything that you said, Sam, is pretty right for me. I don't have nothing much to add, but like, yeah, what you said about paying for all the experiences is like, everything you pay is for all the opportunities that you have. But sometimes I feel like we have too much opportunities, and we cannot handle everything.
Yep.
Like they said, okay, you can do
Yeah.
that masterclass, jam session with a big guy. No, but we cannot handle everything. So
Yeah.
like, sometimes you said we pay a bit too much, and also I would say it depends also of your scholarship, because if you have a huge scholarship, you don't have to worry about these things.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think we pay. I mean, we pay too much, of course, but because we have too much things going on, like for us, you have a very good opportunity to play at the Newport Jazz Festival. Okay, you have an opportunity to play at the Smalls or stuff like that. But all these things are amazing, and I couldn't find something like that in France. In my conservatory, or like big school.
Sure.
Maybe in CNSM, okay, like in Paris, but yeah, but like, I don't know. Yeah, this is definitely one thing.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So I guess that's it. I'm also running out of storage on my computer
Oh.
for this
Oh, no.
recording.
Yeah.
So it was a pleasure having you here. Like Gabriel
Thank you, Joel.
wasn't able to.
Yeah.
find the
Thank
link
you so
today.
much for having us.
Thank you so much.
So I guess we should do more meetings like this. I really enjoy talking to you guys.
Yeah,
because,
definitely. We should.
Man, I'm losing my English, so we should definitely talk more.
Okay, guys. So
Yeah.
I'll see you soon.
All right.
See you.
Thank you
See
so
you.
much, Joao. Take care.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.